Welcome back again. We are at it. My name is Clay Norman. I am also known as Pliglet number 33 in all of my comedy. I'm here with my mom, Jenny Thompson, who's been covering her life story in polygamy and also her experience with it overall.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. Doing really well. How are your mom?
Good.
Having a
Just
pretty good week?
enjoying life as usual.
Good. So diving back into it a little bit from where we left off this week, you're at this point pregnant with me.
Yes, I was. And so I found out I was pregnant with you. I was pretty dang excited. And let's see, the first wife was living out on our ranch. And
The new one that you guys just bought.
yep. And we were getting prepared for the rest of us to move out there so that we could raise cattle and stuff like that. My father-in-law was living out there, so he'd moved out there with his wife, and they were helping get our places set up so that we would have a place to live.
Dad's mom and dad, right?
Yes. And they're incredible people. So yeah, we were getting all ready for that, and his first wife was not feeling well. So she came back into town for a little bit to go to the doctors. And when she went to the doctor, she found out that she had a type of blood cancer. And so that was pretty devastating to all of us
For
on
sure.
that. Anyway, trying to figure out where to go from there. So
So it was a from what I understand, it was a big transition point at this at, through a lot of different dynamics because she had come back, just got diagnosed, yet the family was still making the transition to moving out to that ranch and community, right?
right. Yes. So we were kind of like switching places at this point. She was moving back in and we were trying to transition back out.
Yeah.
So her kids needed to finish school. They did finish school out at our ranch. There was a small school there. And so they finished up that year worth of school. And then over the summer break, they came back in. And then we had to make decisions on what to do with her diagnosis. So she had to go in for blood transfusions and all that. We were all very concerned about her health and
Yeah.
how to help her get back on her feet. She was very much a go-getter. She still was not about to let that slow her down, even though she would get very exhausted.
Yeah.
So, and then as she was going through that and being in town, then slowly, each wife started to move back out to our ranch, and she stayed in so that she could be close to the doctor. We
Yeah.
still had her home at that point.
Mhm.
So as we slowly transitioned out, then wife number 2 and 3 moved out together, and then wife number 5 moved out. And then I came out and lived in with his mom and dad. So I stayed there with my little kids, and once after you were born, then I
Yeah.
stayed out there. So I didn't move out until after you were born.
Yeah.
So
How long did you, because you ended up coming back to help take care of wife number one at some point. How long do you feel like you were out there with them, just living in the ranch until you moved back?
I was out there long enough to get my place all set up. It was the first time I was going to have my own house. I
Mm.
was pretty excited about that. And so I finally got moved into my little house, which was actually a small trailer that I had moved into.
Yeah, to kind of
And
give everybody an idea of what this looks like. This is where I grew up, and so it was just a little cattle farm community that was just trailer home after trailer home after trailer home,
Yes.
and that was our houses. So
Right. Yeah, so I got moved into my house and I was pretty excited about it. It was quite small, but I had plenty of room for my kids.
Yeah.
And I was pretty excited to get it all decorated and everything. I hadn't been in there very long. And my birthday was coming up. So wife number one had called me and asked me if I could come in for my birthday and celebrate my birthday and Thanksgiving with her. So that's what I did. I was all excited to come back in and celebrate Thanksgiving with her and her kids and enjoy my birthday and going out to a movie and stuff like that. So
I assume you brought all
I
your
drove
kids
back
with you?
in. Huh?
I assume you brought all your kids with you when you came?
Yes. I didn't leave my kids just with
And-
anybody. They always came with me.
Okay.
So yeah, so I came back in and we had an amazing time. Both me and her spent a lot of time together chatting and she started talking about what she wanted to do health wise. She wanted to go on a fast to
Yeah.
try to get better because basically the doctors didn't give her much hope. So she decided that she was going to dive into doing a drastic fast and get healthy and see what she could do there because so far her diagnosis wasn't great.
Yeah.
And so I said I would support her in that. So we enjoyed having Thanksgiving dinner together and making pies and just having a great time. Then she said, I want to take you out to a movie for your birthday. And I said, all right, that sounds fun. So she chose the movie and she took me out to see the movie My Life. And if anybody has seen that movie, it's a tearjerker. And she giggled all the way through it because she had a psycho sense of humor. She laughed all the way through it as I sobbed all the way through it. And when we got back out to the car, I was still crying. I said, I didn't like that movie. And she looked at me really sweetly and with some concern and said, that's what's going to happen to me. And I said, that's not funny. That's not going to happen to you. We're going to get you better. And she said, I need you to make me a promise that if something happens to me while I'm trying to get better and I don't come home, if you will take care of my children, I want you to take care of them. And I did. I made the promise that I would take care of them and do the best I could.
Yeah.
So we got home and soon after that, she headed to a good friend's house that we knew that did this for a living. And they put her on a fast to try to get better because her diagnosis was pretty drastic at that point. So she headed down there and I took care of her 10 children, including my own. And it was a lot of work. It was very challenging, but I never for 1 minute thought I was doing anything that anybody else wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I had lots of different situations that came up with taking care of the kids, getting them to work and learning how to balance everything. Financially, it was a little bit of a challenge, but we managed and we got it taken care of. And I had the older kids there that helped out a lot with the kids. And I went down pretty much every day to check on her, see what she needed, to give her an update on the kids. We were on the phone a lot, so she was still very much involved with her kids and involved with me. And I brought down the kids to see her as often as I could.
Yeah.
So she asked me to bring the kids down one day because she told me that she didn't feel like she was getting better. So she wanted me to bring the kids down to see her, to basically, in our conversation, she basically told me that I'm dying and I need to say goodbye to the kids. And this was pretty overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much stood in the background while I had all of her children there. And she sat there and told them that she was not going to be around much longer. And this upset some of the kids. Some of them didn't understand what was going on. And I sat in the background feeling pretty overwhelmed and realizing that I was about to be the mother of 10 more children, which was a lot to take in, but it was more so, it's going to be a lot for them to lose their mother. And I could feel the weight of that. And it was very, very challenging to carry that. And at that point, I really didn't feel like it was that big of a deal that I took on that many kids. I just felt like anybody would do that under my circumstances.
Well,
And
everybody else knows. I mean, you had a newborn baby at this point and 3 other kids. So
yeah,
4 of your own and taking 10 others.
yeah. But they were my kids. I considered them my kids.
Yeah.
And there's no way I wouldn't have done the very best I could to take care of them, especially since I had already made that promise to take care of them. So I had taken the kids back home after that evening and tucked them into their beds and kind of just said a little prayer that, you know, that she would stay around as long as she could. I went down soon after that and took one of her kids with me. And when we got down there, she basically said that I was getting ready to get a hospital bed to bring her home, because we had talked about that I was just going to bring her home. She wanted to be home with her kids before she passed. So I was working on that and had lined up a hospital bed to bring her home. And I didn't realize it was going to go as fast as it did, or as she did. So I told her I had arranged the hospital bed and I was getting it ready to be delivered to the house. And she told me not to worry about it because she wasn't going to be around long enough. And I insisted that she would be. And I would be back in a little bit. So I raced back home. And on my way back home, trying not to cry and feeling like I'm losing my best friend, I got pulled over by a cop for speeding in a school zone because I didn't notice it because I was crying.
Yeah.
And the cop pulled me over and said, "Did you realize you were speeding in a school zone?" And I was crying pretty hard. I said, "No, my sister is passing," because that's what we called each other, as sisters. And I am going back to get her children.
Yeah.
To take them to her. And he let me go sweetly without giving me a ticket, which I did deserve the ticket, but he didn't give me one, which I was very grateful for. So I got back to the house and had found out that she had passed on my way back to the house. So I quickly loaded up the kids and took them back down to see her.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so I got down there and the kids were all there with their mother. I ended up calling the other wives and telling them, and that was really challenging because I didn't know that she was going to pass that fast, or I would have called them sooner and said, "You need to get here," but I didn't realize how close to death she was.
Yeah.
She always kept a pretty close watch on everybody else. And so just not realizing the situation was a little bit hard. So I called them and they came in as quickly as they could. And I think they were a little bit upset with me for not getting a hold of them sooner. And I don't blame them. I probably would have felt the same way. But I did need them there. So the kids kind of surrounded their mom, as we called the mortuary, to get them to come pick her up. And the kids just gave her a kiss and loved on her for a minute. And then the mortuary came and took her. So, and then when things kind of got settled down, I headed home with all these kids that were now my responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit rough to get through.
To say the least. That's a deeply emotional time and story.
Yes, it was. It was very emotional, but you can survive anything.
Yeah.
And taking on that many kids made me realize I could pretty much do anything I put my mind to it. And luckily they were amazing kids. And after she had passed away and things kind of settled a little bit, I had an incident where I went to the mall to go pick up some socks, because Nordstrom's always had this big white sale that we always hit, because you got lots of good deals on socks. So I loaded up quite a few of the kids and put like the 3 or 4 little kids in the stroller and told the other ones to hold on to the stroller as I walked into the mall to go get the socks. And as I came through the door, a man looked at me and said, "Are those all of your children?" And I just looked at him and I said, "Yes." And he said, "God forgive you." And I just looked at him and I thought, I'm sure he will. And I went in, picked up all the socks as quickly as I could. And the kids were very well behaved. They held on to the stroller the whole time, grabbed all the socks, went right straight to the check stand, paid for them. The lady at the check stand was just like, wow, I can't believe how well behaved those kids are. And by the time I left the mall, I patted myself on the back and said, yeah, we've got really good kids and we made it through the mall and I survived. I didn't have any problems, just in and out as quickly as you can.
So how long until you guys moved to the ranch? Because you eventually ended up there, right?
I did. I stayed at the house for a little while with the kids. And just, I don't know how much longer it was from then, but then me and my husband worked out that I would move back out to the ranch. So we had to move some trailers together to have enough room for all the kids. So we did that. And as soon as they were hooked up enough that I could move out to the ranch, then I did.
Gotcha. Did all of her kids come with you when you moved, or did some of them
No, not all of them.
So some of
2 of them stayed into town.
Okay.
They were both working, and so they both stayed in.
Gotcha. Moved into adulthood in a sense.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yep. And so now at this point, our whole family is, in a sense, is now relocated to the ranch where I grew up.
Right.
And life is now in this community that we've created and built out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. That is true. That is where we ended up.
Well, I think that is a great place for us to leave off this week. We covered quite a bit and a lot of really emotional topics. And then, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing, because that's not easy, and you did do a tremendous amount, and it's incredible, it's impressive, and yeah, I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I just love my life and love everything that I've gone through. I feel like has made me who I am.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we resent things in our lives rather than embracing them and growing from them. And I felt like that I never went back and regretted those times. Can always go back and wish you could do better, but things are what they are, and you do the very best you can and you learn and grow from them.
For sure.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, Mom, and we will be back at it next week. So tune in, enjoy, and share. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
So talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Mom.